A demon for a boss. There were days when Cindy LaForce thought she would never work in admin again. She put her resume out there and clicked through hundreds of job postings, meticulously crafting a cover letter for each, but it seemed the incident, which made national news, still hovered over her. How could people forget? After all, she was the secretary who summoned a demon while typing an innocent update to her employer's standard operating procedures. Investigations were conducted into the whole incident. Very important people from the government came out and cordoned off the entire building. One took Cindy aside into the break room and began to question her. Where was she when it had all happened? What was she doing? An update to the company's SOP? Ah, well, there it was. The cadence, the spacing, the punctuation, it all mattered, and Cindy had screwed up royally, especially when it came to the list of contacts. Bob Salazar, Chief Operating Officer of Section 22D, you know, the one with the mustache and his hair combed to the side. A little slip of the finger and an inserted C changed the name to Bob Calazar, Bob being boss, head honcho, and chief in the infernal tongue, even in a language made up primarily of hisses and grunts. This was all enough to summon one Lord Calazar, secondary demon prince of Hell's legions. Cindy had been reciting the changes to her boss as he sat on a filing cabinet and punted a golf ball into a cup, only half listening when the demon materialized out of thin air with a blackened cloud and a brimstone stench. Cindy tried to scream, her voice catching in her throat as the demon's claws obliterated her boss's jugular, and with what she thought might be a wink, the demon strutted merrily down the hall and next killed Sue from accounting. For some reason, Cindy didn't immediately run out of the door. Instead, she stared at the computer screen, the Word document now displaying pentagrams and evil runes where English words had once been. Its dark energies taunted Cindy, making a mockery of all the work she'd put into the blasted thing. Now, whenever she got a callback or an interview scheduled for a position, there was always that moment when the interviewer found out who she was, and it would ruin any chance she once had of making a new life for herself. "You look familiar," they would say. "Oh, you worked for Dynaforce?" others would ask. "Wait, does that mean—" Their words would cut out, and the blood would drain from their faces. Phone calls would end abruptly, and Zoom calls would suddenly disconnect. If the interview were in person, she would be rushed out of the building with great haste by a burly security guard. Even after she changed her name to Cindy Forbes, hoping to get a boost from the falsely attributed proximity to fame, they would figure it out. They would always figure it out. One day, Cindy got a call from someone entirely unexpected. "Yes, I'm Cindy Forbes," she said, wary of her continued claim to fame.
"My name is Axel. The boss needs an executive assistant," the voice on the other side of the line said, "and I have a feeling you're just the right person for the job."
"Axel," she repeated. It didn't sound very professional, she thought, but she was desperate. She had mouths to feed, her son Chasen to think of, and her savings were quickly running out.
"The role will be remote to start," Axel said, "but eventually you may be needed in office."
Cindy felt relieved. Remote meant she didn't have to deal with coworkers. Coworkers meant questions, and questions always inevitably led to the truth.
"You'll be sent tasks to complete daily," Axel said. "If you need to talk to the boss, you'll go through me."
Suddenly, Cindy felt uneasy. This all sounded too much like one of those scams she'd heard about. She was getting scammed, wasn't she? But still, the desperation kept her on the line. "This is all above board, right?" Cindy asked, her voice wavering.
"Of course." Axel dismissed her concerns. In fact, he sounded annoyed. "I'll send the paperwork right over. You can begin on Monday."
"Who's the boss?" she asked, realizing she knew nothing about this company or its employees.
"The boss? Why, I've been told you two have already met."
The realization dawned on her. Her new boss would be none other than Lord Calazar himself, the very demon Cindy summoned that day in the office, sending her life spiraling on an entirely new trajectory. Cindy's heart seized in her chest. "A demon?" she stuttered. "I can't work for a demon."
"You're not exactly in a position to refuse, are you?" Axel said. "Think of your son and your dwindling savings. You've no family to rely on. What will you do when it all runs out?" What will little Chasen think when his mom can't feed him or keep a roof over his head?
Enough, Cindy exclaimed. I'll do it. Although unable to see Axel's face, Cindy could tell he was smiling on the other end of the line.
Excellent. I'll send the paperwork over right away.
That Monday morning, when Cindy logged into her computer, she found an email awaiting her from one lord.calazar@hell.org. Welcome to the team, Cindy, the email began. We're so pleased to have you working for us here at Hell. You've already shown incredible promise by summoning me to your former office with a mere typo, and we're so excited to see what you'll do next. Your first task should be well within your wheelhouse. I'd like you to update my contacts list. Axel will contact you shortly with all the necessary details. Again, we're so pleased to have you on board with us here at Hell. Lord Calazar, Demon Prince, Secondary, Hell's 5th Legion. P.S. Do be careful with the contacts list. We wouldn't want another repeat of last time, now would we? Cindy felt perspiration seeping through the armpits of her blouse and flicked on the fan switch next to her. She reminded herself of the hourly rate Hell was paying her and opened her Slack app to message Axel about the job details. She was only a tiny bit surprised when she saw the face of an imp staring back at her from his profile picture. The rest of that day, Cindy spent making calls and carefully typing out each name on the list, making sure to double and triple check each spelling. When she turned in her finished document by the end of the day, her nerves were shot. Almost immediately, a message from Lord Calazar popped up on the screen, praising her for her diligent work and attention to detail. Cindy felt a small swell of satisfaction within her chest, despite the unsavory nature of her employment. She did pride herself on a job well done, after all, something her last job never seemed to recognize. That night, after tucking her son into bed, Cindy lay on her own, staring at the dark ceiling of her bedroom. The first day wasn't as bad as she'd expected. Maybe she could do this, she realized. This was just like any other job. She'd updated many contact lists and more in her employment history. Hell was just run like any other company, it seemed. As the weeks and months passed, Cindy continued with the average office secretarial tasks, and with each completion, Cindy felt the pride of a job well done. She even began looking forward to the occasional messages or emails from Lord Calazar himself, beaming with the praise that he would lavish on her. Cindy never had a good relationship with her drunkard of a father. It was one of the reasons she was a single mother, her therapist had told her. Her therapist might also have told her that she was extra sensitive and welcome to any praise from an older male figure in a position of authority. At times, Cindy would find herself studying the small round picture that adorned Lord Calazar's contact in her address book. Dressed smartly in a black suit, white shirt, and red tie, Lord Calazar stood upright with his arms crossed over the front of his chest, a slight grin upon his face. Cindy had to squint her eyes to really make out the details. Reddish skin and twisted black horns sprouting from his head, but his features were unmistakably handsome on a human level. "Can I let you in on a little secret, Cindy, my dear?" he told her in a message one day. He'd begun using the term of endearment with her in casual conversation lately, which never crossed the line into territory that was too forward or sleazy. "That first day I met you in your old office, I could immediately tell how unhappy you were. It's one of the reasons I killed your old boss first." At one point in time, much more recently, this casual talk of murder would have unnerved Cindy. Now the two of them laughed about it like it was an inside joke. Lord Calazar was right about one thing. Cindy was unhappy at her old job. Her last boss had been dismissive of her efforts and borderline sexist with how he made her fetch his coffee. It was one of the excuses she used for being so inattentive to the company's SOP as to make such a colossal screw-up. Cindy could hardly believe her fortune had changed for the better in such a short period of time. One Friday afternoon, Cindy received a message from Lord Calazar stating that he wanted to see her in his office bright and early on Monday morning. Cindy acknowledged receipt of the message before thinking harder about what that entailed. Afterwards, she realized that such a task's logistics were truly mind-boggling. Would Lord Calazar come to her, or would she go to him? And did he say he wanted to see her in his office? But how the hell would she get to hell? Did this mean she was getting fired? Cindy spent her entire weekend with her nerves frazzled. She wanted to text Axel to ask him for details, but she knew the imp didn't work on the weekends and wouldn't answer her messages. Despite it being hell, they had a surprisingly worker-forward company culture. Sydney had always been able to take any time off she needed with pay, and hell was very strict about workers enjoying their work-life balance. Hence, when Axel commented that he was going on a nice trip to the Fire Lake in Abaddon that weekend to bathe in their lava pools, she knew his work cell phone would be off. Cindy arose extra early on Monday morning to do her makeup and pick out the best outfit she could find, one that said corporate couture, without veering into slutty. If she was going to get fired, she was damn well going to go out in style. On the chance that she was being summoned for another reason, she wanted to look her very best. At 9 a.m. sharp, a portal sprouted in Cindy's living room. Cindy jumped up from her computer with alarm, inching closer to inspect the fiery hole. "Do come through, Cindy. It's just a teleportation portal." Cindy recognized her boss's voice as it echoed through the swirling vortex. "It's completely safe for humans, I promise you." Cindy squeezed her eyes shut and stepped through. She was immediately hit by a blast of heat as if from a furnace, and she opened her eyes. She was in an average corporate-looking office with no windows. She scanned the premises, taking in the workers of all shapes and sizes, human and inhuman, before a voice said, "Oh, good. The boss is expecting you now." Cindy craned her head around, looking for the source of the voice. "Cindy, yoo-hoo, down here." The chair in a workstation she thought was empty swiveled around, revealing a little red imp on an oversized chair cushion. She recognized Axel immediately from his work profile picture, but he was much smaller than she expected, and cuter, too. He reminded her of one of the stuffed animals her son Chasen used to keep in his bed. If she could just have picked the imp up and squeezed him, she would have. Behind him in his cubicle hung a framed poster with the words "Lake of Abaddon" superimposed over bubbling magma pools cradled between black basalt rocks. It reminded her of the gurgling mud pools she witnessed when she took Chasen to Yellowstone several years ago, and probably just as hot, too. "Axel, you look refreshed. I take it your weekend went well?" Cindy asked, smiling. "Lovely," he replied. "What a wonder the lava did for my skin. I feel like a whole new imp." The small red being indicated the shining vermilion flesh on his exposed arm. "Now go through that door, Cindy," the imp commanded with his tiny clawed hand. "The boss is waiting for you." Cindy pushed through the double doors where Axel had indicated and into Lord Calazar's office. The imposing red demon sat behind a large slab of black obsidian shaped into a desk. He looked relaxed behind his computer as he leaned back in his chair, but he brightened when he saw Cindy's face and straightened. "Ah, Cindy, my dear," he said, and stood up, his arms wide. Cindy let the double doors swing shut behind her and smiled at the warm greeting, her heart fluttering excitedly as she advanced closer to the demon. Sensing the uncomfortable sweat trickling down her brow, the demon snapped his fingers, and the temperature immediately chilled in his office to a more acceptable human level. "You'll have to forgive the heat, Cindy. Us demons do like it warm." Feeling immeasurable relief, Cindy thanked him as the sweat evaporated from her skin. "Please, do sit." Lord Calazar gestured to a chair. "I'm so pleased to meet you again in person after all this time. I have a proposal for you, one I think that will benefit both of us." Cindy sat forward with rapt attention. Lord Calazar was much more handsome in person. Now that she knew the demon personally, she rather liked his charming demeanor and could overlook the once unsettling details such as his inhuman red skin, his black twisted horns, and the long pointy nails on the edges of his fingers which he now held clasped in front of him. "You see," Calazar continued, "I've been talking you up in wider demon circles, and your exploits have gotten the attention of some very important denizens of hell. Let's just say there's a project of utmost importance that I believe you are uniquely suited to." "Oh?" Cindy perked up. "My office has secured the bid to draft Hell's latest SOPs. That means you, Sydney. After that little name switcheroo you pulled at your old job, Hell realized it had found a perfect inroad to further its agenda by introducing more workplace errors worldwide. Just imagine. With a simple keystroke, any schlub at a computer could accidentally summon one of Hell's legions, and it's all thanks to you." A range of emotions went through Cindy in that moment. Pride over having been chosen for such an important project, mixed with dread over the potential ramifications of screwing up such a big task, and a deep-down conflict that she was furthering Hell's agenda in such a major way. Wasn't she already doing that every day by working for Hell, though? No matter how she tried to justify it, she couldn't get over the feeling that what she would be doing was wrong on a fundamental level. "I knew you'd be pleased, Cindy," Lord Calazar said. "We're all behind you here at Hell. Me, Axel, the big boss, everyone." Cindy flashed the biggest smile she could manage. A trickle of sweat ran down the crack of her back. "Still too hot, Cindy?" Lord Calazar asked. "You'll get used to it eventually. They all do." Cindy made small talk with Axel, who was filing his claws with a nail file at his desk on her way out. Despite everything, she still liked the little guy and wondered if anything at all could get him to consider a career change. She breathed a huge sigh of relief when she was back in her own apartment and the portal winked out of existence. She set her AC on max and then stripped down to her underwear before flopping on the bed. The whole experience replayed in her mind as she wrestled with what to do. The one thing she kept coming back to: what would Chasen think of her? Did financial stability make up for dooming souls to hell every day she worked for them? What would her boy think of her when he found out what she did? In her head, the image of Lord Calazar replayed on the day she first summoned him, tearing through her office like a bat out of hell. She'd made up her mind. Cindy began work on the massive project the next day. She began to introduce errors to the SOP, small calculations that would add time and further chance to screw up when finally implemented by Hell. She planned to throw a wrench in the gears without making it too obvious. She wanted to give humans a chance, a real fighting chance to keep out of Hell's machinations. She worked tirelessly, collecting overtime, which Hell happily paid for. Axel approved of each iteration of the project, which is how she knew she was on the right track. When the day finally came to deliver the hulking black binder with the emblazoned red pentagram on it to Lord Calazar himself, a pit of dread grew in her stomach. "Relax, Cindy," Axel said. "The boss is going to love it." She stepped through another teleportation portal the day after adding the finishing touches. As she materialized in Hell, she was met with all the workers in the office, human and demon alike, standing there to congratulate her. Axel was at the forefront, standing on his desk. She turned to the imp, who held out a tiny clawed hand for her to shake. "Congratulations, Cindy," he said. She turned to him, smiling, and took the proffered red appendage in her own. There were a million things she wanted to say to him, but they all died on her lips. Instead, she turned and walked down the line of employees, clapping for her, which led to the open doors of Lord Calazar's office. As soon as she passed the threshold, the doors slammed behind her. Lord Calazar sat behind his imposing obsidian slab of a desk with the big black binder closed in front of him. The red and black demon was leaning back in his office chair, relaxed, with his feet on his desk and his hands steepled together. As soon as he saw the human woman, he readjusted into a sitting position. Cindy couldn't read his emotions, but hers were clear as day. She was afraid. "Cindy," he began, "I read through the new SOP this morning, and—" He paused. She swallowed. "You've done such magnificent work." Cindy relaxed, her body slumping. Relief washed over her. "This SOP is masterful, Cindy. You've managed to single-handedly increase production times by 25% in human offices, thus adding to the suffering quotient exponentially. I don't know how you managed to do this, but it goes to show you well and truly are one of us." She stiffened. "Cat got your tongue, Cindy? You should be proud of all your hard work," the demon said. The heat in Lord Calazar's office felt unbearable. Why didn't he turn the blasted temperature down? "You can expect a huge bonus at the end of this fiscal quarter. You might even be able to move into a nicer place finally with the amount we'll be paying you." What was she thinking? Beat Hell? The Hell? She once heard, "Never bet against the house lest you lose everything." Well, she had, and all it cost her was her soul. Cindy turned to leave, but before she could go, Lord Calazar called out to her and said, "I've enjoyed working with you, Cindy. I do hope you know that." Cindy paused and looked back over her shoulder. She wanted to say something back to him, something like, "You too." But had she actually enjoyed working for Lord Calazar? Or Hell? Not really. Every day was, hell on her. Instead, she just smiled and nodded. Cindy went to grasp the handlebars on the door, and as she flung them open, the demon said one last thing. "Do send in the next human on the way out, won't you, my dear?" After she left Lord Calazar's office, she made her way back to the portal in a daze. Everyone who'd greeted her with such fanfare had all returned to their desks. Even Axel was nowhere to be seen. As she reached the edge of the portal, a figure appeared. She was human, wearing a smart knee-length cut business suit, hair done up on a high ponytail with a straight line of bangs and cat-eye glasses. Cindy looked the woman up and down, and the woman gave a small laugh and a smile in return. She should say something to her, shouldn't she? She could warn her, or maybe even figure out who she was and email her later. Should she direct her to Lord Calazar's office? There were so many things she could do. Instead, Cindy looked ahead confidently at the portal which would take her home, and brushed past the woman, head held high. The first thing she did was sit down at her laptop and begin searching for new jobs. But first, she typed her name into the search engine, both iterations, and hit search, expecting to see thousands of results with the news story that had made her famous. This had become a routine for her each day, a way she'd punished herself. But there was nothing. She searched again, disbelieving that it could be real. She typed in extra keywords along with her name, such as demon, boss murdered, even the name of her old company, and nothing. Nothing came up. She closed the laptop. The rest of the day, Cindy was in high spirits. She would start looking for another job again soon, but not yet. Tonight, she just wanted to focus on her son, Chasen, who'd been put on the back burner while she was slaving away at her work. She was cooking a nice dinner for him, and they would eat together when he got home from school. She used to love cooking. Why had she ever stopped? She heard the sound of the front door, and Chasen came rushing in. "Smells good, Mom." "Go get changed and washed up, honey. It's almost done." Her boy threw his backpack to the ground and rushed off to his bedroom as she turned the burner off and went to grab the plates to set the table for them. Chasen returned moments later. "I told you, I'm too old for stuffed animals now, Mom." Cindy froze and turned around slowly. In her son's arm, he held a fuzzy red imp, just the size Axel had been. "But, this guy looks kind of cool. I guess I can keep him." "Thanks, Mom."